We're going to be talking about protectionism, Trump, Brexit, global trade flows, and yes, the WTO as well. Are you scared about protectionism?
Free trade has generally been a good thing overall. Yet we have these arguments every decade, every century, just like we do about productivity. And it's like we just never really learn our lesson that this is a good thing and we ought to find a way to make it work. All that being said, do I really think we're going to go back to protectionism? I don't really know yet. And I can promise you that I'm paying a lot of attention to it because trade matters to us. To your point, half our sales are outside the U.S., so we pay a lot of attention to this. But you'd have to say, if you look at agreements within the U.S., like NAFTA, it does need to be upgraded.
When you talk about protectionism, I don't think now is the time to overreact. I mean, are things trending the way that we would like? The answer is no. Would we have liked TPP to have been approved, and would we like for the new administration to be supported the way that it was written? Of course we would. I believe the power of globalization, and you just look at e-commerce. If there's nothing else that's going to drive globalization, global e-commerce is going to.
Prime Minister May has talked about entering the WTO. Will it be seamless and easy?
The more they try to change what they do and do something different, of course, the more difficult it is. They have to negotiate with 164 members.
If you talk to UK officials these days, you know, Theresa May herself mentioned this morning, they will say things like, well, never mind, we'll go and negotiate trade deals with other EU countries quickly. We've already had Donald Trump appearing to indicate that he'd like to do a quick deal with the UK. The reality, though, is going around talking to people in Davos is that the UK is going to be competing with the EU to strike trade deals, isn't it?
We are negotiating around 16, 17 trade agreements right now, preparing for another 5 or 6 big ones. So we will be busy, and maybe UK as well then. It is natural that the UK then, once they have left the European Union, that they also seek to negotiate.
If you're negotiating 17 trade deals at the moment, then the UK would be the 18th in the queue, is that right?
Yes.
I mean, are you worried about a US-China trade war?
I'm reluctant to jump too quickly and talk about the disaster when we don't really know what it's going to be yet.
One, I'm an eternal optimist, and I don't believe there's going to be a trade war.
You have worked in Washington, now in Beijing. Have you ever met Donald Trump?
Never. Yeah, I hope I have a chance to meet him, and maybe can explain to him his situation. Yeah.
In what way? Tell us what his situation is.
I mean, there's a few things. I mean, I can tell, for example, in a few years ago, U.S. imposed, particularly 45% tariffs on particularly Chinese tire export to U.S. So China's tire export to U.S. dropped from 14 million one year to 5 million, dropped almost 2/3. But price increase. So they save U.S. job 1,200, but U.S. consumer paid $12 billion. So per job saves, U.S. consumer pay $1 million. Is this a good deal? And China export loss. So there's no winner in the trade war. He said he will name China being the exchange rate manipulator or something. What does that mean? He will go through WTO and also IMF. He can impose 45% tariff across all the Chinese, and export to the United States. It will cut basically China's GDP growth rate 1/3. It will cut U.S. GDP growth rate in half.
It will cut, say that again.
It will cut Chinese GDP growth rate 1/3.
By 1/3.
It will cut U.S. GDP growth rates by half. It will hurt both. It's serious. So, I mean, this is not a trivial issue. It's a pretty serious issue, right?
I think we should try not to talk ourselves into a trade war.
Good point.
And I think we're seeing a lot of that. Trade wars should be taken seriously. The major difference between what happened after 2008 and what happened in the 30s is that now we have multilateral rules. In the 30s, we didn't. So when the unilateral action was taken, there was a domino effect. And that domino effect wiped out 2/3 of global trade in 3 years. Now, you don't want to see that now. That will be a catastrophe of untold proportions. So I think We should strengthen the multilateral system. There are tools to handle a lot of the things, a lot of the complaints that we hear. There are tools in the WTO that you can use.
At the core of this issue is a deadly serious question, because in the next 48 hours, we're going to have a new leader of the free world who has very different aspirations about how to set the global order. You can argue that he's captured a sense of anger that is sweeping through the Western world, anger at inequality, anger at the fact that many of the elites, including us here in the room, have been very slow to recognize the degree to which inequality has been rising and frustration has been rising amid this free trade boom. And yet, if nothing else, what's going to happen in the next 48 hours should lay down a challenge to all of us who do believe in free trade to try and explain the principles better and the benefits, and also to try and make it work more effectively in the world. So, best of luck to all of you, and thank you for a great debate.